The beginning of Parshas Va'era for us is often very cryptic and almost a closed parsha because so much of it is discussing different names of the Ribono Shel Olam, things which perhaps we don't understand the full depth. Therefore, it's hard for us to fully grasp that which the Torah is telling us. Vaydaber Elokim al Moshe Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. Right? I am Hashem. What is the point of that first pasuk in general? What's the Torah telling us? It's the only time in all of Torah where we have such a statement. Vaydaber Elokim al Moshe Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. What's the purpose of such a pasuk? What's the Torah telling us? Va'ira El Avram El Yitzchak Ve'el Yaakov Bekel Shakai. I revealed myself to them with the name Kel Shakai. Ushmi Hashem Leinadati Lahem. But I never told them the name Hashem. Again, what is the difference between Kel Shakai and Hashem? And what is the Ribono Shel Olam telling Moshe Rabbeinu here? And what effect does it have on the rest of the parsha? So again, very often this is a closed parsha for us, at least this part of the parsha, because it deals with such depth, such things which are omdim b'dvarim, dvarim sha'omdim b'rumo shel olam. But let's try to understand, at least on a basic level, what perhaps is going on over here. And really we have to start with the conversation that we ended off last week. Last week we discussed the end of Parsha Shemos, where Moshe Rabbeinu comes and says, Lama hariyosa, he has a claim against the Ribono Shel Olam. Lama hariyosa la'am hazeh, why have you made it so difficult for Klal Yisrael? Lama zeh shelach tani. And we pointed out, based on the Gemara over there, based on a very important nuance in Rashi, that clearly the discussion over here, that what Moshe Rabbeinu was referencing, was the original debate between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Ribono Shel Olam, where the Ribono Shel Olam doesn't want Moshe Rabbeinu to The Ribono Shel Olam wants Moshe Rabbeinu to lead the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I am not your guy. And we pointed out that the real understanding of that machlok is based on the Gemara in Maseches Sanhedrin, where the Gemara says that the midos, the tchunas hanefesh of Moshe and Aharon, are two different midos. Moshe is the midah, says the Gemara, of Yikoir Fedin es Hahar, and Aharon is the midah of Oyev Shalom, Roidev Shalom. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu was basically telling the Ribono Shel Olam, I work, I operate, I understand you, I perceive you through the midah hadin, and I see Klal Yisrael, they are not ra'i through midas hadin. Then comes the Ribono Shel Olam and says, okay, therefore I will give you Aharon HaKoyin, hu yiyeh l'cha lefer, Rashi Tevis Hillel, I will give you Aharon, the midah of Oyev Shalom v'Roidev Shalom, and together you will be able to take Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. Here, Al Pi the Medrash, it seems that Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the parsha is once again referencing that conversation and saying Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Ribono Shel Olam, you see, I tried, it didn't work, they're simply not deserving, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. Lama hariyosa la'am hazeh, why have you made it so difficult for this nation? They're not right to get out. You sent me anyway. And you see that it's just making it worse for them. What I want to focus on right now is that medrash that we spent time on last week, as we pointed out, says that because Moshe Rabbeinu said, Lama hariyosa la'am hazeh, since he had a claim against Ribono Shel Olam says, you are meharher achar midosai, you are challenging my hanhaga in a way that the avos weren't challenging my hanhaga, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, you're not going to see kibush Eretz Yisrael. You're not going to bring the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael. And many of the Mefarshim are bothered. We know why Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't get into Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't get into Eretz Yisrael. The pashtus in the psukim is because he hit the rock. So what does it have to do with the fact that he said Lama hariyosa la'am hazeh? We know that Moshe Rabbeinu was mefurish in the psukim. He didn't get into Eretz Yisrael because he hit the rock. How could Chazal come and say also because he said Lama hariyosa la'am hazeh? So we have to understand really in truth what's going on over here. And if we continue that same mahalach, that same approach that we began last week by explaining that Moshe and the Ribono Shel Olam were almost arguing over the proper midah with which to take Klal Yisrael out. Rabbi Shem was sending Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, I am Midas Hadin, and therefore I am not the one to do it. And that was his claim of Lama Hari Oisa La'am Hazeh. So now let's take it to the next level. What is the Rabbi Shalom responding to Lama Hari Oisa La'am Hazeh? That response is at the beginning of Parshas Va'era. Now what does this mean at the beginning of Parshas Va'era? Vayidaber Elokim al Moshe, Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. Elokim says to Moshe, and he says to him, Ani Hashem. You know, it's very interesting. Many of the Mefarshim grapple with, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu had a higher level of Nevuah than any other Navi. Moshe Rabbeinu was on the level of clarity of Aspaklaria HaMe'ira. Every other Navi was Aspaklaria She'ena Me'ira. Now, when did Moshe Rabbeinu attain the status of Aspaklaria HaMe'ira? When did he attain the status of Nevuah, Aspaklaria Me'ira? Was it at the Sneh? Was it at Matan Torah? But in fact, if you look at the Rishonim, it would seem to be that Moshe Rabbeinu attained the level of Aspaklaria Me'ira right over here. Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe, Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. Happens to be the Gematria. If you take a look at Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem, the Gematria of Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem is Ponim el Ponim, the way that the Chazal describe Aspaklaria HaMe'ira. But if you take a look at the Ramban here in the Ibn Ezra, it seems Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem, the Gilui that was taking place over here was the first time that Moshe Rabbeinu had a Gilui of Ponim el Ponim. Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem, Gematria Ponim el Ponim. Here is where he attained the status of Aspaklaria HaMe'ira, something which was never shown to any Navi before, the Avos, and any Navi after. And basically the response of the Rabbeinu Shalom to Moshe Rabbeinu is as follows. Moshe Rabbeinu, the true answer to your question is, you're Midas Hadin, Yikov Hadin es Aharon. Aharon is Midas Harachimim. You're telling me, don't send me, send Aharon. The truth of the matter is, there's a combination. Really, the Emes lies in the middle. When you combine Midas Hadin with Midas HaChesed, with the Midah of Aharon, of Oyev Shalom, the Roidev Shalom, that's when you get Midas Harachim, and that's when you get Emes. Moshe Rabbeinu, the proper approach, the true approach is that I don't reveal myself only with Midas Hadin, and I don't reveal myself only with Midas HaChesed, but they're really all one and the same. They're really Hashem Echad. All those Midas are one. What is that? How is that expressed? That's expressed with the Shem Havaya, Ani Hashem. So you have a pasuk over here, Vayidaber Elokim. Vayidaber is a lashon of koishi. Elokim is a lashon of din. Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. It's the same thing, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're telling me that there's two separate anhagas. There's an anhaga of Elokim, and there's an anhaga of Rachamim. There's me, Moshe Rabbeinu, Yikov Adin es Ahar, and there's Aharon HaKohen, Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom, Moshe Rabbeinu. It's all one and the same. Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe. Rabbi Shalom says, me, the one who you see as Elokim, B'Lashon Dimor, Vayomer, Lashon Raka, B'Lashon Rachmanos, Elov Ani Hashem. It's all one and the same. And that's really what the Rabbi Shalom tells Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is told that you are coming to me and arguing that I should take them out with Aharon HaKohen, with Shalom. I'm not taking them out with Midas Hadin, but I'm also not taking them out with Midas HaChesed. You have to realize that it's only all one and the same. It's called Midas HaEmes. Rav Shlomo Fisher points out that Moshe Rabbeinu asks the Rebbeinu Shalom, he says, V'amru li ma shemoi. What does he mean to say, V'amru li ma shemoi? What he's telling the Rebbeinu Shalom is, it's the wrong Midah. Am Midas Hadin, V'amru li ma shemoi, Rashi Tevis, Shalom, send my brother Aharon. That's the shame. That's the Midah that is going to take them out. What does the Rebbeinu Shalom respond? Ekya asher ekya. Ekya asher ekya. Ekya asher ekya, 21 to 21 equals Emes, and the midah of Emes. Rabbi Shalom says, no. There aren't two separate midas over here. There's not Avram Avinu, which is Chesed, and Yitzchak, which is Gvura. Really, it's Yaakov Avinu. They combine together. It's Rachamim, it's Teferes, and that's Yaakov Titan Emes Yaakov. The true Emes is in the middle. And therefore, when the Rebbeinu Shalom is Megala himself, B'Aspaklaria HaMe'ira, Vayomer Alav Ani Hashem, what he was telling Moshe Rabbeinu is, you've got it all wrong. You're viewing it as either the Anhaga of Moshe Rabbeinu of Din, Yikov Adin es Ahar, or the Anhaga of Aharon, of Shalom, of Chesed, but really the truth is that it lies in the middle. You have to combine both of them. The two Menidos, the two Anhagas are one of the same. Ani Hashem. And that's the response of the Rebbeinu Shalom to Moshe Rabbeinu's argument at the end of last week's parsha, and that's what the parsha continues. I revealed myself to them with different hanhagos, but they never saw me. They never saw the yichud. They never saw that really the midas hadin and midas hachesed is all one and the same. Moshe Rabbeinu, you have to understand that it's not one midah or the other. You and Aharon have to combine together to be one manig, to be one leader, and take Klal Yisrael together, because that's the midas ha'emes. The midas ha'emes, the truth is that chesed is not din and din is not chesed. It's all one and the same. Saying Shmi Hashem le'nedati lahem. What I'm showing you, what no one else has ever seen. That what you perceive as din is really chesed. What you perceive as chesed is really din. It's all one hanhaga. It's all one hanhaga of emes, which is only revealed with the Shem Havaya. Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. I am Hashem. Panim upon Moshe Rabbeinu was the first one to experience this, and this was what the Rebbeinu Shalom was being megalatim, and this was the midah that he was charged with to take Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. However, Moshe Rabbeinu, we see in the coming week, in the coming psukim, that it was difficult. Where do we see this? A fascinating insight by Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Chaim Kanievsky points out, if you take a look later in the parsha, there's a very, very interesting exchange. The Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu is told that he has to go and tell Klal Yisrael that the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to come and take them out. And Moshe Rabbeinu comes and it says, "Vayidaber Moshe Kain el bnei Yisrael v'lo shamu al Moshe." They didn't listen to Moshe. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe leimor, and Hashem says to Moshe, they didn't listen to you. Bo yidaber el Paro melech Mitzrayim v'shalachas ami bnei Yisrael. So he says, go to Paro and tell them. Vayidaber Moshe lifnei Hashem leimor. You're telling me to go to Paro? Hey bnei Yisrael lo shamu elai. Bnei Yisrael didn't listen to me. Ve'eichish me'eni Paro v'ani yourself v'sasayim. How is Paro going to listen to me? Then we go through, then the Torah says, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe ve'al Aharon, vayitzaveim el bnei Yisrael, ve'al Paro melech Mitzrayim, lahoitziz bnei Yisrael. But Hashem said, go anyways, vayitzaveim ve'al Paro melech Mitzrayim, lahoitzi es bnei Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael doesn't listen. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, go now to Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu says, how are they going to listen? Even Klal Yisrael didn't listen to me. How is melech Mitzrayim going to listen to me? And then the Torah says this very cryptic tzivoy, vayitzaveim el bnei Yisrael, almost sounds like just go to Paro the way I told you. Then the Torah digresses for a little bit, a big discussion, going through the yichus of the different shvatim, Ruvain, Shimon, and ultimate Levi, and then the Torah comes back to this same conversation. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe leimor, Ani Hashem daber el Paro melech Mitzrayim es kol asher ani dover elecha. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells Moshe, go tell Paro what I said. And Rashi says, didn't this already happen? And Rashi says, you're right. It's just a repeat of what happened before, but now that we digressed for a moment, we go back to that conversation before. It says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, but there's a major difference over here. It's not quoted exactly the way it occurred. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe leimor, Ani Hashem daber el Paro melech Mitzrayim esa kol asher ani dover elecha. Go tell Paro everything I told you. Vayomer lifnei Hashem, and Moshe said to Hashem, Hein ani aralsav asayim ve'eich yishma lai Paro. I'm an aralsav asayim. How is Paro going to listen to me? Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, that's not what Moshe told the Rebbeinu Shalom. Moshe told the Rebbeinu Shalom, a kal v'chomer. If Klal Yisrael didn't listen to me, alachas kam l'kama, Paro's not going to listen to me. If this is just a repeat of the conversation which already took place, the Torah cuts out half of the conversation. The claim that Moshe Rabbeinu had to the Rebbeinu Shalom wasn't ani aralsav asayim. It was a kal v'chomer. If Klal Yisrael doesn't listen to me, alachas kam l'kama, Paro's not going to listen to me. Explains Reb Chaim Kanievsky beautifully that there's a major difference between what Moshe Rabbeinu was told to do and what Moshe Rabbeinu did. If we go back to the psukim, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu was told by the Rebbeinu Shalom, L'chein emor livnei Yisrael. Tell Klal Yisrael, emor amira b'lashon raka. Again, Moshe Rabbeinu, not midas hadin, midas harachmanos. Tell them b'lashon raka. What does Moshe Rabbeinu do? Vayidaber Moshe Kain el bnei Yisrael. Moshe did it b'lashon dibur, and therefore Klal Yisrael doesn't listen because Klal Yisrael can't handle the strength of midas hadin of lashon dibur right now. So therefore he goes back to the Rebbeinu Shalom and says, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, fine, go to Paro. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, what do you mean? If Klal Yisrael didn't listen to me, so of course Paro is not going to listen to me. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, no, because you didn't speak to Klal Yisrael the way I told you to speak to Klal Yisrael. And that's what the pasuk says. Vayitzaveim el b'nei Yisrael, says in Medrash. What does it mean? Vayitzaveim el b'nei Yisrael. Vayitzaveim dibur lahem b'nachas. You have to speak to them b'lashon nachas. The Rebbeinu Shalom is answering Moshe Rabbeinu's claim over here. You're saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, that you did what I said and they didn't listen. If they didn't listen, so Paro's not going to listen. No, you didn't speak to them the way I asked you to speak to them. And that's why they couldn't handle it. Speak to them b'lashon nachas the way I told you, and you see they'll listen. And therefore, when the Torah repeats it, the Torah doesn't repeat Moshe Rabbeinu's kal v'chomer. There's no kal v'chomer anymore, because the Rebbeinu Shem already answered that Moshe Rabbeinu. The reason Klal Yisrael didn't listen to them is you didn't speak to them the way you were supposed to speak to them. Now go to Paro, and therefore the Torah leaves that part out. But once again, we see the same struggle coming up time and again. Moshe Rabbeinu's being b'midas hadin, b'lashon kosher, and the Rebbeinu Shalom's response to that, to Moshe Rabbeinu, is no. Klal Yisrael has to be dealt with b'lashon raka, a combination of Moshe and Aharon together, midas ha'emes, midas harachamim. And now we understand what Chazal mean when Chazal say, that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Eretz Yisrael because he said, Lama harei oisa la'am hazeh. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu go into Eretz Yisrael? Lama harei oisa la'am hazeh? No, because he hit the rock. Well, if you look at Chazal there, says Rav Shlomo Fisher, so Chazal say, what's this? He hit the rock? He should have spoken to the rock? What does this mean exactly? This is why Moshe Rabbeinu was punished. He should have spoken to the rock as opposed to hitting the rock. We'll take a look at what Chazal say. Chazal say that the whole thing was a mashal. It was a mashal for the way that Moshe Rabbeinu treated Klal Yisrael. Omar lei say Chazal, v'dibartem el asel. Rebbeinu Shalom says, I want you to speak to the rock as a mashal. The way your mani Klal Yisrael should be dibur, should be bilashon. Speak to them, benachas, v'hikisem loy nemar. Don't hit them. Kishanar kotan Rabbi Makei melamda v'kevin shehigdil b'dibur miyaso. Kach Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe. Kishahaya asel ze kotan hikiso so. Then when Klal Yisrael were younger, maybe you had to be harsh with them. But now already you could be light with them. The reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was punished is not because he hit the rock. Hitting the rock was a mashal that he was being too harsh with Klal Yisrael, says the Medrash. That he should have spoken to Klal Yisrael instead of hitting them figuratively. So really what Chazal are saying, Lama harei yoyse la'am hazeh. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, I'm telling you they're not right to get out through Midas Hadin. He didn't have faith in Klal Yisrael. He thought that Klal Yisrael is not going to listen to him. They don't have the zechuyos to get out. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells him, if this is going to be your attitude towards Klal Yisrael, you're going to end up hitting the rock. You're never going to see the potential of Klal Yisrael. You're never going to see that they're going to believe you. You're going to continue to be a manhig who hits them. And really it's all one chait. Lama harei oisa, the attitude of Lama harei oisa, not having faith in Klal Yisrael, the attitude of Midas Hadin, that they're not roy, they don't have the zechuyos, not having the faith in Klal Yisrael to be able to choose correctly on their own, that same attitude is ultimately what causes Moshe Rabbeinu to end up hitting the rock, which was a expression, a mashal, for his attitude, says the Medrash, towards Klal Yisrael in general. This is why we see that according to many inferences in the Psukim, Aharon HaKohen gets punished for hitting the rock as well. And Moshe Rabbeinu in the Medrash turns to the Rebbeinu Shalom and says, I understand why you're punishing me, but why are you punishing Aharon HaKohen? And the Medrash doesn't answer. But al pi this mahalach we understand. Because the whole purpose of Aharon HaKohen was to combine with Moshe Rabbeinu, to almost modify Moshe Rabbeinu's Midas Hadin and turn it into a Midas Harachamim. That was the purpose. When Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, we see that his hanhaga throughout the Doros is maintained as a hanhaga of Midas Hadin. Aaron's Rachmana, so to speak, Chesed, didn't necessarily have the impact the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted it to have, of Midas HaEmes, of guiding Klal Yisrael with Midas HaRachamim. And therefore, both of them cannot be the ones to guide Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. Rebbeinu Shalom says, because you hit the rock, what I was concerned about at the moment of Lama Hare Oisala Amazeh actually comes to fruition, we have to come with a new leader. So what it really occurs on the pages of this week's Parsha, at the beginning of Va'era Alav Ani Hashem, is a continuation of this struggle between Moshe Rabbeinu and the Rebbeinu Shalom. Moshe Rabbeinu adopting a harsh view of Midas Hadin and Klal Yisroel. The Rebbeinu Shalom saying, I'm giving you Aharon HaKohen to realize that really both of them are correct. There aren't two separate Anhagas. It's not Midas HaChesed and one hand and Midas Hadin on the other hand. It's really in the middle. It's all one. Vayomer Alav Ani Hashem. It's all Yichud Hashem. It's all the same Anhaga. And we see this continuous struggle, this tension, continue to play out throughout the Parsha.